This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are ready to rock at NRG Stadium. Watt gets him down this time. JJ with the sack. Rock and roll. Touchdown. Deshaun Watson.
This is Texans Extra Points, and the good guys are in Cleveland taking on the Browns this week. It's Week 10. My name is Drew Dougherty. I'm your host, and man, I'm glad to have Sean Pendergast of Sports Radio 610 with me. You do the post-game show, you do the pre-game show, and then during the week you've got the morning show there with Seth Payne.
I'm a busy guy.
You're a busy guy. You write as well for the Houston
Yes.
Press. I love your columns.
Thank
We've got
you.
a lot to get into this week.
Indeed.
And we're going to do that. But first, we got to get some news of the week out of the way from Houston Texans land. It's all part of the Red Diamond Iced Tea Quick Hits. And yes, the Texans heading back to Cleveland for the first time in 6 seasons. Deshaun Watson has never played there, but he's very ready to experience the atmosphere, even though there won't be as many fans as there normally would.
This is first time, other than the visit I had in pre-draft, I've been in Cleveland. So it's, I've heard the history and the tradition that they have up there. I think it's called the Dog Pound. So it's definitely going to be a fun, place to play. And I heard it's a good time to, great atmosphere.
Even though the Texans have just 2 wins this season, they do have nice memories from 6 years ago. I know that doesn't mean much, but the last time Houston was there, J.J. Watt, well, like the guy to my left likes to say, he touched every little statistic in the statistic buffet, including catching a touchdown.
Yeah, it was awesome. For the team to put that much trust in me, to put me out there on offense and to throw up a fade ball like that and give me the confidence to make the play, and then for me to be able to provide that play for the team and that boost of energy, and to see how happy everybody got for me. It was a very cool experience and a lot of fun, and it was a great time.
But enough about atmospheres in the past. Let's talk about the present day. Who are these Cleveland Browns of 2020? Well, Romeo Crennel gave a pretty good discourse on them.
Well, it looks like that they've made a lot of progress, to be 5-3, because they started out pretty good. And everybody, this league is a tough league for everybody, but they're in the hunt. They put themselves in the hunt. So, we got the last half of the season to play, and we'll see how they come out at the last half.
All right, so that's some of the news from the week that was. We've got Sean Pendergast with us. Let's start with Deshaun Watson. He has been smoking over the last month and a half, and it just gets better, it seems like, on an individual basis for him. Wins haven't been there, but what have you seen differently from him over this last 6-7 weeks?
Yeah, I would say, Drew, that first and foremost, I think he's gotten better with his decision making. I think some of the plays that I won't say most enthusiastic about on Sunday against Jacksonville. I was most enthusiastic about the touchdown passes and the shots down the field. But there were certain times in that game, and there have been times in games lately, where he escapes pressure, he rolls out, there's nothing there, and he's willing to throw the ball away. Earlier this season, we saw, for example, in the game in Pittsburgh, he's trying to make something out of nothing, throwing the ball, low percentage throws that have in the past wound up as turnovers. I think he's just got a better overall feel in his decision making, and now he's really, you can see the chemistry clicking now with his wide receiving core too. I think that's the big thing, is that now he's found a way not just to dial in on just Fuller or just Cooks. He's really found a way to kind of involve both of those guys, and then from there the secondary receivers are doing what they need to do when the ball's thrown to them.
Yeah, how lethal is that combo, the Fuller-Cooks combo? Because, it seems like every single week we're seeing a 40-yard, 50 yards. We saw 77 yards on one play, one score from one of those guys, if not both.
Yeah, it's obviously, in terms of downfield speed, it's one of the most lethal in the NFL. I think one of the more underrated things about both guys is that they're both very, very tough for guys their size. And I know people will kind of maybe roll their eyes with me saying that about Fuller because he's missed so many games because of injury, but I don't think it speaks to his toughness. I think it speaks to some bad luck more than anything else. They're both very good route runners, both willing to go over the middle, make tough catches, take big hits. I think the one thing that you miss with these two as opposed to what you've had maybe in the past with DeAndre Hopkins and Andre Johnson is just a bigger guy. I think it's reflecting with the Texans on they're not as good on third down this year as they've been in years past. About last year they were among the best teams on third down. This year they're in the lower third on third down. And I think they do miss that third and intermediate type receiver, that big physical guy that you can either throw a back shoulder to or you hit on a crossing route. But overall, I think the Fuller and Cooks combo is what they thought when they put these two together before the season. It's starting to look like that.
Passing game on the uptick, doing well. Run game is just not where they want it to be. So, twofold question. Has the judiciousness from last week of Deshaun Watson running with the ball, whether it was designed or whether it was a scramble, might that be able to help out what they do moving forward? And might Duke Johnson being in the lineup help what they want to do to run the ball too?
I'll answer the second one first. Yes, on Duke Johnson, I think. I think there's something about Duke's running style that, especially right now where the blocking is so cluttered. I don't think everything is David Johnson's fault, but I don't think David Johnson has had a very good year. He just looks a half a gear slow. There just seems to be a little more wiggle and a little more urgency with Duke Johnson, where even when he wasn't putting up big chunks last week, he was at least getting him into 2nd and 8 and 2nd and 7 on runs where I thought if it was David Johnson running, they'd have been in 2nd and 11. So there's that. As far as Deshaun goes, I think just showing a little bit of Deshaun in some designed runs can at least put the defense on its heels a little bit. No one's asking you to run him in design runs 8 or 10 times a game, but at least show that it's there in the playbook. And not all the runs need to be these urgent things where he's just scrambling out of danger.
Yeah, making the defense hesitate just a little bit can go a long, long way. We've got a long way to go on this show. We're going to talk about the defense in just a second. And speaking of the defense, we're going to look back at J.J. Watt's 100th sack. Helping us with that, doing the X's and O's on it, is John Harris on the Telestrator.
Welcome to Texans Telestrator, presented by BMW. I'm your host, John Harris, football analyst and sideline reporter for your Houston Texans. And I've been lucky enough to be down on the sidelines for 63 and a half of J.J. Watt's 100 sacks. It's been a joy to watch him work. He's been one of the greatest in the game. Number 100 came on Sunday as a result of great work by J.J., but he got some help, as he pointed out after the game, from a lot of his friends. So let's go to the Surface powered by Microsoft and see how number 100 came to be. Irony here is that this play is the exact same play concept the Jaguars ran in the first play of the game. The difference here, Texans in the same coverage too, in cover 3. Deep third, deep third, deep third, that's cover 3. But in this case, corner here on the first play was up. So Chark read it, got out of dodge, Luton threw him a bomb. But on this one, you can see Philip Gaines is off. So Chark's adjustment is to run the dig route on the inside. So with the bunch route over here, you're going to get a crosser, an out, and then the corner route. Everything gets covered up pretty well. So let's take a look at the coverage as this goes. Now, Michael Thomas does a great job here because his eyes are first here on Cole, but knowing that Justin Reed will pick him up when he keeps going, Thomas falls further in the lap of Chark, and that takes that away, which is great stuff there by Michael Thomas. He sees that that Cole coming across is taken by Justin. So Thomas drops. That's where Luton wanted to go with the ball. He's not able to do it. There's the Jungle Cat going and getting it, swatting it away. Look at that. He made this dude right there pretty happy. That was me, by the way, in my little sideline moat. Now, let's go to the end zone view and watch JJ work here. You're going to get a blitz here. There's John Reed behind the goalpost. He's going to show like he's in coverage, and then he comes off the edge. And he actually does a great job against Cam Robinson. He does a nice little dip and rip. For a rookie defensive back, he rushes the quarterback pretty well. We'll focus on JJ over here. He's going to go against Juwan Taylor. It's a pretty good right tackle. And JJ does something that only veterans really can pull off. You can see how JJ gets Taylor into his body. He allows Taylor to get into his body because JJ knows what he wants to do. Right there. See how JJ's kind of hugged up right here? That's kind of what JJ wanted because he knew if I get Taylor in tight, I just show that quick rip move, which is what he does right there. See how that hand go up in the air? See that right hand right there? Kind of missed it, but it's right there. He kind of threw that up to get underneath Taylor. Now Taylor's done. Taylor thinks he's got him, but when JJ eats up that separation, Taylor's in trouble. Now he can do, and there's that rip, there's a hand going up, and now he's just seeking the ball. Go and get, see, there it is. Look out. Here comes the ball. But you can see in coverage here, nowhere to throw it there because Thomas is there. There was a defender right here on Cole, so there's nowhere to throw the ball, and JJ gets number 100. Now the Jags got back on it, but it didn't matter. That was a third down play. Jags had to punt. JJ Watt gets number 100. Did get some help from his friends with the rush into coverage working together. And obviously more of that is needed the rest of the year. But congrats to the big fella for getting number 100.
Quick throw left side. Cooks has the first down and more up the sideline. Cooks off to the races. 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Rock and roll. Touchdown, Houston. 57 yards. Here's the snap. Here's the throw to Fuller. And he's got it at the 50. Fuller on the run. 40, 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Will Fuller.
Oh, you've been clamoring for the next-gen stats powered by AWS, so here's a good one. We know Will Fuller the fifth, and we know Brandon Cooks are very, very, very fast. How fast? Well, Fuller on his touchdown last week went 20.88 miles per hour. Cooks, meanwhile, was at 20.54 mph on his touchdown, and those are the two fastest plays this season by a Houston Texan. Cooks, meanwhile, has 5 of the 10 fastest plays.
That's
Wish
fast.
that translated into wins.
Yeah.
Yes, but it doesn't. But nevertheless, it's still pretty cool. They're very fast guys. Texans looking for some speed as far as progress from the rookies. Jonathan Grenard and Ross Blacklock specifically. We saw them play a lot more last week out of necessity because there were so many. It was like a mash unit, because of COVID-19. What have you seen from Blacklock and Grenard? What do you want to see from here on out?
I think, I think Blacklock's making progress. As you know, my co-host Seth Payne is a former defensive lineman for 10 years in the NFL, 5 here with Houston. So I trust his evaluation on things like that. And I know he's been talking a lot about Blacklock just needing to work on his hands and his technique, which is something that I think is pretty normal for rookies, especially rookies that are normally a lot more talented than the guys they are at the collegiate level, that are able to get by with just being physically superior to a lot of guys. I think, if some snaps open up for him here, he's already getting, 25, 30% of the snaps, whatever it is. If a Menahue's injury doesn't heal quickly, then maybe he's going to get some more of those snaps. So I'm not overly concerned that Blacklock isn't lighting up the stat sheet yet or anything like that. I think he's going to be fine. And then we finally got a long look at Grenard in this last game. And I don't think he looked overwhelmed. I think he's another one that I want to see over these last 8 weeks really start to progress on passing situations, start to see 52 in there and go, wow, he flashed a few times. So I think it's still a little early to tell on Grenard, but I thought for the first time out, he played 83% of the snaps in that game. I thought he held up okay against Jacksonville.
Yeah, he was a little bit gassed, Romeo Crennel was saying, which is interesting. I mean, he hasn't played that much, so it's a big jump.
Right.
But getting after the quarterback, it's got to get better. And the Texans have just not gotten the sacks. We've heard all about the run game defense and the maladies there and the lack of progress there, but this team has had a lot of problems sacking the quarterback, hasn't it?
Yeah, and J.J. Watt is still, even though the sack numbers aren't necessarily there for him, I think if you just watch play to play, J.J.'s still pretty disruptive. Not peak J.J., but he's still clearly the best player in that front seven. I think what I've been looking forward to seeing that maybe we saw in the preseason, and I know preseason is just practices, there were no games this year, so we saw some of it at the practices. We haven't really seen much in the regular season this year, some of maybe the elaborate or exotic blitzing things that we thought we were going to see with Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver, he's been with Rack the last few years, but he was with Rex Ryan before that. And
right.
I think a lot of us are hoping we'd see some of that Rex Ryan with some of the blitz packages and things like that. Look, they're lacking some bodies right now in the front seven. They're lacking productivity with some guys. Anthony Weaver's got to figure it out.
Yeah, all right. We know J.J. Watt is massive because he's got 100 sacks. That's most in franchise history. It's 34th all time. He's tied with Andre Tippett, a New England Patriots Hall of Famer. But who's second on the Texans franchise sacks list? We'll have that answer later on in Texans Extra Points.
Here's the snap. Clowney on the way. Mayfield throwing downfield. This is picked off. Cunningham to his left. 25-20, the 15 left sideline, 10-5, going for the pylon, and it's a touchdown for Houston.
We love defensive touchdowns here on Texans Extra Points, and that was Zach Cunningham 2 years ago. Last time the Texans and Browns locked up. That pick six against Baker Mayfield. I mean, that was some athleticism to the nth degree, Sean Pendergast, and I'm cool with another one of those.
Those were good times, man, in that game. There were a lot. Baker was very generous that afternoon.
He sure was.
Yeah.
I think that was the 9th win in a row. That was the last win in that win streak, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you may be right about that.
Yes. All right. We're here in the Ford Studios. We're discussing the Texans and the Browns, and let's talk about these Browns. Will Houston see good Baker Mayfield or bad Baker Mayfield? Because he's been both at times this year. Most recently, he was really good.
Yeah, well, look, this Texans defense has not played well this year. So we saw, I didn't know what version of Jake Luton we were going to get last week. So because I didn't know who he was until the week of the game. Baker Mayfield's a much more known commodity. Look, my guess is the Browns are going to score some points in this game. The Texans have struggled defensively this year. Bad Baker, though, is about turnovers, and I think if they can keep him in bad down and distance situations, obvious passing situations, and that's obviously going to require them to stop the run on first and second down against Nick Chubb. I mean, there's all kinds of ripple effects that go with playing defense, obviously. But if they can get him in those situations and they keep him in the pocket to where he's not kind of hurting you with some of that improv game, then I think they can force him into some mistakes. I mean, chances are it's a much better version of the one that came here than the one that came to NRG Stadium a couple of years ago, because his defense just isn't in the same neighborhood as the one from 2 years ago. But I think there are some things the Texans can do to fluster him.
For sure, and you bring up the run game. Nick Chubb, 6 yards a pop when he was playing earlier. It looks like he'll be back, but in his stead, Kareem Hunt was playing well too. 4.9 yards a carry. He was catching touchdowns out of the backfield as well. He already has 4 receiving scores this year. How multifaceted is that Browns ground game in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it's as good as it gets as far as having a 1-2 punch. I mean, Kareem Hunt's a guy who rushed for 1,400 yards a few years ago with the Kansas City Chiefs, and we all know how that ended, and he wound up in Cleveland. But he seems to have kept his nose clean in Cleveland, and it's been very fortunate for them that they've got a backup plan to Nick Chubb, who was great last season, has been great this season. So that's tough. It's already tough, as the Texans have seen this year, when the other team has a bell cow back that can come at you. Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, even James Robinson last week had almost 100 yards rushing. That they can hit you with that 1-2 punch of 2 Pro Bowl level talented guys, though, it's tough sledding.
And then on the other side of the line, Laramie Tunsil's going to have his hands full, but so will Myles Garrett. If they match up, it's going to be interesting to see how much he gets moved around.
Yeah.
Because Myles Garrett is excellent and going against one of the best in the game. Well, Deshaun Watson says LT is the best in the game at that spot. I don't know how much you'll see of each other.
Yeah, I hope they see a lot of each other. I mean, that's if you, other than quarterbacks and guys around the ball, if you're watching for things off the ball, those are the matchups that you want to watch. That's Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan back in the day. You know what I mean? So I hope we get to see a lot of that on Sunday.
Yeah, and I hope it's a body slam like WrestleMania, the Hulkster.
Yes.
Putting Andre down, and I hope
for the 1-2-3. I hope Laramie drops the big leg on him.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got to get into Gatorade players to watch. Who are you keeping your eye on? What Texan is it?
Whitney Merciless.
Okay.
Whitney Merciless had an impromptu and unwanted bye week last week, obviously. But Whitney has struggled this year. Honestly, 14 tackles in 7 games. Whitney needs to have one of those Sundays where he's living up to that big deal that he got this week.
I'd love to see that. And as a caveat, we could always say, hey, Deshaun Watson's a Texan to watch, or J.J. Watson. So aside from those two, he went with Whitney. I'm going to go with Duke Johnson. That's not a big one, but yeah, it's not a surprising one, but he's going to get more opportunities than he normally would. And this is a team where he used to be. He started his career in Cleveland, so he might be just a little bit more geeked up than normal. So I'm going to go with Duke Johnson. You got Whitney Merciless, and we will be right back with your FCCU keys to a Texans victory. Don't go anywhere.
Texans Extra Points has been sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, by Amagi Bank, official business bank of the Houston Texans, and by Jameson, Tailgate like a Texan with Jameson Irish Whiskey.
Earlier in the show, we had some Texans trivia, and it was this one. J.J. Watt, obviously, franchise leader in sacks all time with 100. Who's number 2? Well, the answer is Mario Williams with 53. And Whitney Merciless with 53. So think about that. Next time Whitney Merciless gets a sack, he will become second all by himself.
So if I said Mario, does that mean I got it right or that I got it wrong because I didn't say Whitney also?
Half right. You got
Okay.
it half
I
right,
got
Sean
half right.
Pendergast
All right.
of Sports Radio 610. We're happy that you're with us, and we're happy to get into the first community credit union, keys to a Texan victory. What are the two things necessary for the Texans to win tomorrow?
I'll take one on either side of the ball. I'll go back to something I talked about a little bit earlier. I think putting this game in Baker Mayfield's hands is a big thing for the Texans. Anything you can do to get the game out of the hands of that Cleveland running game and into the somewhat careless at times hands of Baker Mayfield. When Baker can start to improvise a little bit, I feel like the Texans' chances of being successful on that play go down. He is pretty good in that realm. And then I think on the offensive side of the ball, look, it's going to be a Duke Johnson game. Let's not just plug Duke Johnson in like he's the next running back and say, okay, it's time to run our running back 12 or 14 times up the middle. Maybe use this as a chance to unleash Deshaun a little bit in those RPOs.
I'm cool with both of those. I'd like to see each of those happen. As for me, start fast. I loved what the Texans did last week. They scored a touchdown on their opening drive for the first time since the playoff game against the Chiefs. But in the regular season, it hadn't been since 2018 at Denver, about 2 years ago to the day in mid-November. So do that, get a touchdown early, and take a lead. And then second one, get 2 takeaways. Get 2 more takeaways than the Browns have takeaways, because I think you're going to need to just get them off the field, for lack of a better reason, and get those points on the board. Hey, touchdown as always from you. I really appreciate you coming on. You're the best, and we appreciate you watching us here on Texans Extra Points. We'll be back next week on the same channel at the same time. And until then, Texans looking to get win number 3 of the season at Cleveland. We will see you very, very soon. Go Texans. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.